I'd like to welcome you to BlackUSA.News Morning Show. Running a little bit behind here, but I'm with my very dear friend, Marsha Juice. Marsha, you didn't have coffee.
No, I was trying to be here on
I know.
time.
But Marsha, you got your arms out. What you going somewhere?
Listen, today is a sunny day and it's warm, and this is spring.
You've been outside?
Spring. No, but I can make happen whatever I want to happen. I can be wherever I want to be.
I heard you can do wonders with a green screen.
No question.
Okay.
You can create whatever you want with a green screen. All you need is this little green thing. See, look, look, darling.
Oh, wow.
That's the green screen. And I don't have the thing up in there. Look, this is, if I had the green screen where my books are, this is what it would say.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Lord, well,
invention is something, Lord, I tell you.
I may have a new computer. It says I need a stronger system.
Okay.
But anyway,
I told you what to do, though. I sent you an email.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I want to welcome to the show Darius G. And by the way, we have a big night tonight. But anyway, welcome, Darius.
Hi, Darius.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited. And Darius is our new intern, and we are pumped. So why don't you tell us about yourself, Darius?
I'm an entrepreneur of Embassy Moving. I've owned that company for the past 2.5 years.
That's great. And
it's been an up and down hill battle.
Well, that's what business is sometimes, especially under COVID, right? We have to really be careful with all this. COVID-19 has changed the world, right? So tell us what your business is. What do you do?
Yes, it has.
So what do you do?
Mostly hauling residential, some local, and some corporate office buildings.
Oh, that's great. So anybody out there that needs to have things removed, who are maybe restoring something, or they're getting rid of something, or they're moving and need to get rid of a lot of material, or if it's a corporation that's building and needs to have debris removed, that's what you do?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's great. And how do they get in touch with you in order to access your services?
Well, in the beginning, I started off writing my name down on little pieces of paper, just getting clientele. After my clientele came about, I got beautiful business cards made.
Great.
Second, I put my services on Google. So when people could just Google my business pop up with all my services and contact information professionally to the business.
I love it. That's important. That's where everybody goes. They ask the question to Google, and then you pop up. And so do you have like an email that people could reach you?
Yes, ma'am. I have a direct email, movingsbest410@gmail.com.
Oh, I love it. So say that one more time slowly.
Okay. movingsbest410@gmail.com.
So is that movings, MOVINGS BEST? All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. 410@gmail.com. Is
yes,
it right?
Ma'am.
Very good. Well, I'm glad to hear it. So you're going to now be our intern. And and I haven't had this conversation with you, so we're going to do it live and people are going to listen, right? So
Yes,
what
ma'am.
is it that Donnie said that he's going to have you do for us?
Well, I'm actually a writer.
A writer. I love it.
Yeah.
So what type of things do you like to write?
Specifically movie scripts, horror movie scripts.
Horror movie scripts.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am. I have 2 copywritten called Maryland Massacre Part 1 and Maryland Massacre Part 2.
Massacre? Like as in a mask?
Massacre.
Oh,
Massacre.
massacre. Okay, so
Yes,
you did say
Maryland
horror.
Massacre.
Yes, you did say a scary movie is what you. So what? How did you come about this story?
Just all of the pain that I've been through as an
Mm,
African American male growing up in Baltimore. I
mm,
had no positive way to release that stress and anger. And I found it within writing.
that's powerful,
So I
Gary.
started off writing a horror novel. Then a little bit later, I adapted it into horror scripts because
Okay,
the format was just more better for me.
okay. So when you decided that you wanted to write, what happened? You were going through something, or you've been through several things in your life, and then you said, "I need." What made you say, "I'm going to write a horror movie. I'm going to write a novel." What happened in your
You
head
ever,
that just turned the
oh,
light switch on, right?
right. It's like watching movies. You watch movies and you tell like, I could have wrote that. Why'd that lady go down there? Why did
Right.
she fall right there? I would have had her go this way. I would have had her do that. So I took the time and energy and put my mind into making movies the way I would like to see them watched.
I love it. So you've actually even filmed them, or you're just still at the script level?
Just still at the script level.
Okay. That's powerful. So how long do you think that this movie's going to be?
About an hour and a half.
Okay, so typical movie time that you go and pay $5 at the movie theater or whatever.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And so the fact that you have it already copywritten is powerful. That's, you're halfway there, right? So what's your next step?
My next step is to keep building my writer's portfolio. Just keep
Okay.
building my writer's portfolio with as much literature as I can.
Okay. And so then are you going to then take these scripts to somebody? Do you have a organization that would be able to fund the development of your movies? Are you doing them like in a series so that
I was See, I wasn't going to start asking for any distribution deals or any money until I finished part 3,
I
because I
see.
know it's more money for a trilogy
Aha.
than just 1 or 2 movies.
So how do you know that there's more money in a trilogy?
Because 1 movie, it might gross, let's say, $1 million. They're going to want to offer the writer only, I would say, 300,000 out of that million for 1 movie. If you come with a trilogy, I could demand approximately 1.5 million for all 3.
So you're very smart and you clearly have done your research.
It's a
Did,
must. That's a must.
did you use Google?
Yo, yes, ma'am. The library, the library was closed.
Okay, all right. So in your search, what did you have to put into the Google search to get that information?
Just basically the Hollywood standard of
Aha.
how to format the actual screenplays and scripts for movies. Because if it's like a legal document, if the format is wrong, it gets rejected, no matter how much work you put into it.
Hmm.
So that was my first step, getting the format down pat.
That's powerful. Donnie, did you know that he had a trilogy he was working on? I'm so proud of him.
We'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Derek Thomas. He is a movie producer, and one of the films that we interviewed him for was when he came out a few years ago with Raised by Wolves. Is that right?
Yeah, Raising Wolves, yes.
Good
Right
That
morning.
was
there.
good.
I'm sorry, I got a little distracted there by Bill. So Derek, this is Darius, and Darius, this man, how many movies you got now, Derek?
Probably like 7 features, maybe like 12 altogether, something like that or whatever.
There you go. So Darius, there is a bona fide producer. Tell him your dream, Darius. Darius,
Yeah, she was breaking up a little bit.
tell him your dream.
He was saying that Derek was breaking up a little bit.
My dream basically is to bring the money that Baltimore is missing in the movie industry as far as Black cinema to Baltimore City, because a lot of that money for Black cinema is going to Detroit, Michigan, Florida, and they're making small local movies, but they're getting checks from Tubi, Hulu, Netflix for Black cinema, and that's a gateway for Baltimore that we haven't broke into yet, that I'm trying to get us to break into.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Darius. I would say that the financing for film in Baltimore is really low. We have some great filmmakers here, and we have some great people with great ideas. And I would say that to be almost true with producers and filmmakers of color, no matter be Latino or otherwise Asian, around the country. And I will always tell filmmakers that financing is probably one of the most important aspects of being a filmmaker. And I feel like that is my second job when it comes down to that. So I think you're on the right track in regards to wanting to jump in on the finance. I always tell people at the end of the Academy Awards show, the person holding up the trophy is the producer. So
The money man.
that is, the money man, pretty much. So you're on the right track, and I commend you for that.
So here's a question for you, though, Derek. If we're sitting here and he's fresh out, he's got a trilogy already ready. It's already, the paperwork's already been done to protect it, right? Copywritten and all of that. How do you pitch a film? Where do you go to pitch for people? You've got the script already done. Everything's already laid out. You got your stuff, you got your suitcase, you're dressed, you're ready to go. But who do you call? What's the number? Who are the people? Where are they? How do you find those people to be able to go in front of them and pitch?
Yeah.
Is there something like they used to do on TV with the whatever that big show is, where people would come in and get the guys to try to buy their products, right, and fund them? Is there something like that for the movie industry?
Kinda, yeah. There is you probably always wonder, like, how all these Hollywood people know each other and things of that nature. Well, there's a system, and everybody should grab a pen and write this down.
Hold on, I'm getting everything now.
There is, grab a pen, everyone, and write these words down. There is a system how all these Hollywood people connect and know each other, and it's little known to outsiders. And I'm gonna give you an outsider secret. It's called studio systems, and I think they're owned by GraceNet. Now, studio systems used to be, back in the heyday of Hollywood, a Rolodex. And in this Rolodex, it would have the executive producers, writers, everyone that you could ever imagine in Hollywood who's a bigwig. It had all of their information, and all of them had the studio system Rolodex. That's how they contacted each other. It's like, how do these people all know each other? And I used to say that for years, like, how do you know the know? Well, studio systems. So studio systems it's a app, it's a computer program, it's a application, and all the rest of it, website, and you can go online, and of course you have to pay for the service, but everyone in Hollywood is there. Now that's just the first step. The second step into how you connect with some of these individuals is that you can get the phone number, but you got to get through the door. And more than likely, you need representation. So if you do have a product, the best way to do it is try to get a literary agent or a sales agent trying to get through the door today. There are more filmmakers. They done sold 1 million cameras. Everyone has a cell phone, has a camera, and cameras are cheap. Editing system is cheap. So there are a ton of filmmakers out there, a ton of filmmakers in school. It's just talked to a bunch of them yesterday, and you know, they were filming in my neighborhood, and you know, a guy had known my films and dragged me out there to talk to the filmmakers, and it's a lot of them. So that being said, they have a lot of people knocking at their door and wanting to pitch their ideas and all the rest of it. Now, keep in mind, this is insider information. Filmmakers or the upper echelon believe that 99% of the material out there that people come up with isn't any good. They believe that 99% of the ideas out there isn't any good. That should let you know where you're going, where you're starting from.
So,
right?
wait a minute, Derek. Wait a minute. 99% out of all,
Yes.
but I see a whole bunch of movies that are on television or the other parts that, you know, the places that you mentioned, that the films are horrible. So
Right.
how do you,
Yeah.
what is it that there has to be a formula, right? There's a
Yeah.
formula.
Yeah, it is a formula. And I would say this, you know, see, a lot of films that you see are being produced by these companies. And well, the 99% I'm talking about, or I'm speaking of is that this is material from people outside the industry coming in and knocking on the door and saying they have a good idea. The industry goes head over heels to produce their own material. They have their own inside writers, producers. They have meetings every day. They come up with their own ideas and produce that. And that's what you're seeing. Very little do you see, you know, films being produced from outsiders actually getting deals. It happens. It does happen, but more than likely, it's from in-house. You know, and you can. There's stories about major film producers. Even I had a option deal who brought screenplays and just sat them on the side or whatever. And that just speaks of the industry. That's pretty much how it operates, how they operate, and how it works for the most part. I'm not saying all that to deter you. I'm just laying out the landscape of what it is. But what I can tell you is that if you want to really get in the industry, you know, I would say the best route to take is try to get representation. You can try to contact the companies through studio system yourselves with a query letter. You probably will get a response. I used to keep them, but I don't keep rejection letters anymore because it's too many. But I did, and I just found success with making my own films and getting my own distribution, then building a reputation where you can finally come across, you know, the Netflix agents and producers and things of that nature. So, but yeah, I would most certainly say try to get a literary agent, try to get a sales agent, try to get someone that has relationships with Netflix. And also a lot of screenplay competitions and things of that nature sometimes have, you know, representatives from different countries in those, from different film companies in those competitions, and you can try your hand at those. But make sure your work is copywritten, and make sure your work is protected for the most part. The Writers Guild Association, Literary Library of Congress. Make sure you do everything that you can to protect your intellectual property.
Right. So when you sit down and you make a list of where would you find these representatives? Where do you go? Is that still the same studio system that has literary agents, or?
Yes, ma'am. You can most certainly find literary agents in studio systems, but there's usually, like, you can Google that now, but there were books. I used to have some, but I don't have many more. But you can actually find books now that have listings of literary agents, and in that, you know, listing, you'll see ones that represent writers, screenplay writers, you know, book publishers and things of that nature. They'll be separated, and they'll list the kind of writings that they represent. But finding a literary agent would be helpful.
Right. Sometimes different corporations have trade shows, like the military literally has trade shows where all of the defense contractors come in and bring their tanks and helicopters and all of that for the military to look at. Is there something similar for the movie industry where the public can actually come, or if you're an invited guest, to actually come in a trade show type of environment to meet some of these people
Yes, ma'am.
as a cold call?
Yeah, it's called the AFM. It's called the American Film Market. It usually happens once a year in different parts of the country. I think it's usually held in either New Orleans. I think the last time might have been held, but whatever it is, whatever place they hold it, it's a marketing or a conference, or so to speak, where all the agents from television networks, streaming platforms, literary agents, movie producers, they go there, and people like yourself, Darius, would rent a table at this conference, and you would basically have some sort of presentation about the screenplay or the material that you want to sell at this film market. And literally, that's how people sell television shows. They would actually they would buy a table at this film market, and it's almost like having a booth, and they would wait till people come by and, and inquire about their material.
What's the name of this?
It's it's American Film Market.
Do you ever have anybody as a mentee to help train and show them the ropes?
I have a few people that that contact me, ask me questions. So as a young kid, actually Donnie, I gotta give credit to Donnie, because he asked me a question that been banging around my head for years. He was just like, "Who are you gonna?" It was just he didn't think anything of it at the time, but he was just like, "Who are you gonna train under you?" Like, this was during the time to interview. He was just like, "Who you passing your knowledge on to?" And I just never
got somebody right here.
Never
Derek.
forgot that question. Right.
Derek has a trilogy has already written.
Right. And what I was saying is that, so it was a few young kids that were under me, and one of them wanted to become a filmmaker or whatever, and studies under me now, and works with me on film production sets. And so it's been quite a few of them through the years who, wanted guidance and information and things of that nature. So actually I started on the process of really trying to help young filmmakers to fulfill their dreams and things of that nature. So, but Darius is welcome to pick my brain and ask me all sorts of questions. They have 20 years of experience, and I could be helpful to someone that's trying to divert past the pitfalls of this industry.
Did you hear that, Darius?
Excuse me, Derek. Yeah,
Yes.
excuse me, Derek. Have you thought about creating like a film academy, like how we have Micah, the Art Academy? Have you thought about a film academy to help those students?
Not particularly in any structural manner. Is just because I find it to be like, I inquired about certain places and all the rest, but it's a lot of bureaucracy involved in trying to get like the space and things of that nature. And Baltimore is filled with film academies. Micah has a strong one in Baltimore that they build in, and Towson has one. I think Morgan's opened up. Morgan has took over the film studio. They used to be on the Cold Spring Lane, and so I haven't put together anything that's structural, but maybe I will at some point or whatever. So, but it's never too far from my mind to think about doing something of that nature. But yeah.
What's that? I can't see it. It's got a light on it. Okay.
Who is that? Spike Lee.
Okay.
Spike Lee.
I need glasses.
Well, he's holding a picture of Oscar Michaud.
Who is that?
Well, that's somebody that Derek and Darius look up to. He's the first Black filmmaker, Oscar Michaud. He made 44 movies.
Absolutely.
and he made his movies in response to the first white movie producer in America, D.W. Griffith, who made The Birth of a Nation, which was the most horrific, stereotypical white movie ever made in the history of America. They showed it at the White House. They showed it to foreigners to justify white people's treatment of black people. D.W. Griffith, Birth of a Nation. But Oscar Michaud, let me tell you, folks, every time they had a racist, they had a black gladiator right there. And a classic point is, have you ever heard of McMecken Street? McMecken Street is in West Baltimore. It's named after a black man named George McMecken. And George McMecken used to dig up in the mayor at the time, J. Barry Mahou, who is known as the Father of Segregation. So George McMecken, who was a black lawyer, and his, I believe it was his cousin, Ashby Hawkins, two black lawyers, they stayed on J. Barry Mahou like white on rice. Thank you for letting me share.
All right. So Darius, that's a lot of good information.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Very helpful. Very helpful.
Do you have a couple of extra questions before Mr. Thomas has to go roll out?
No, not at all. Well, I'll be in contact with him and pick his brain personally about.
Well, you want to ask him. I mean, we put him on the spot, and really the information he's given is a gold mine.
Right.
And maybe he will be kind enough to take your call. But Derek, thank you for taking time out of your money-making morning to spend some time with us, man. What's next for you, Derek?
I'm releasing I was working at the last couple of films I shot and on the West Coast. I've been filming over there lately. And I'm just working on this project called Loyalty. It's probably, we're actually at the end of post. We're really trying to nail this thing down. It's so difficult trying to make a film in COVID. But yeah, we're at the end of the trail for this film. It's probably about half hour long. It's we wanted it to be longer, but we had to cut it short because of all the COVID restrictions and things of that nature or whatever. But it's a nice little film or whatever. So, and you know, that's just what we're going to continue to do. Try to. It's almost like swimming through mud during this COVID, trying to make a film because you have to, you know, do the regulations. You don't know who has it. You don't want to, and it's been a challenge, you know. So, but for the most part, you know, that's our latest project, and we're happy. With it.
Is it safe to say that movies where the actors are kissing are a no-no right now?
Yeah, like we've had a few instances where they just, you know, they wouldn't touch each other. You. Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's out for right now. But if you get them tested and things, like you have to really get them tested before, after, hours before, and things that, like it's really all about the test. If they go out for lunch, they got to come back and get a test. It's that serious. And you know, so we just cut it out of the story altogether, the kissing and all the rest of it. So
okay, two more questions for you. Do you these streaming services, has that changed the game and opened up more opportunities for producers?
Yes, it has. And I would say it's opened up more opportunity for independent producers, primarily because if you have a quality production, that increases your chances. And that's, you know, that's a good and, you know, good plug for Darius, that if you have a quality production, that opens up the door wide open, because it's almost like anything else. You know, if you go around with your hand out, you know, people more likely won't give you anything. But if you start producing material that's actually attracting attention, the floodgates open up, because they look at it like you're taking money out of their pocket. You're getting their money. You're cutting into their pie. And that's when they're going to want to cut a deal with you. And they will cut. You see what happened with Shonda Rhimes. Shonda Rhimes started writing some great material, and boom, like, you know, she has, I think, $150 million deal with Netflix. Incredible. And I know she's on a different scale, but, you know, it goes to show you that if you can produce some great material, no matter how you do it, if you can produce some great material, They'll open those doors for you.
And I noticed through the streaming service, like Netflix in particular, they have a lot of British movies.
Yeah. Yeah, Netflix, they've opened up the door to the British films, and that's just because they're producing great material over there. Like the writing and the acting is on par with, you know, for some reason, American actors just aren't taken that seriously anymore. You know, and that's just because we seem to somehow glorify great looks and not talent. And over there, they really pride themselves on a theater. They get a lot of the actors from a lot of those guys you see on television from the theater, and they really do train, and they really do. They have a different approach to the performing arts. Whereas though America is really just all about like looks and, you know, being pretty and, you know, saying some sort of a line that's going to, I don't know. It just seems like we're superficial here in a sense. And you can't say that about, you know, all the actors and all the rest of it. But for the most part, the European actors just have a more, that's why Game of Thrones did so well. It's just that they have an approach to performing, and it's wonderful.
But they're thespians, right? And there's a whole different thing. I don't know where this is coming from. The thespians, in terms of being in theater, has a different approach on how they're presenting themselves. And so it's live, and you have a different expectation for the people that are on that stage versus something that's boxed, that's already done in the film.
I heard him say a stronger work ethic.
Yeah. Well, that's thespianism. You've got to have it if you're going to be on a stage.
Yeah. It's all of it, really. You know, it's all of it. But you know, my thing is, I just love how they're able to, you know, mimic that American accent. That's keeping it working.
Have you seen Americans imitate a British accent better?
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. I don't know if we could do that good of a job as much as they can play us or whatever. But it's Americans are starting to, you know, get over there, and you gotta understand that although it's, you know, we're separated by water, this is really one world now. This is really one world now. Like this world has gotten smaller and smaller. We may be separated geographically, but electronically. Oh yeah, this is one place, and all you're seeing now is just, you know, us starting to blur the lines coming together. And it's only China and a few other countries that decided to not allow, you know, YouTube, and not allow Dropbox, and not allow some platforms, because they're trying to keep that separation. And more importantly, what they're trying to do is they're trying to stop the American influence. They're trying to keep us separated, but we all know that the digital platform, the internet, has broken barriers, and that's what it's doing. It isn't going anywhere, and they're trying to control it, but they can't. And it's going to do nothing but bring the world closer together and reveal everything. I don't know if we're ready for it as a human race, but it's happening.
Do you see Africa ever being the new Hollywood?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I'm glad you brought that up. Africa is where it's all is, man. Like I would honestly say that I would move to Africa now and get in on the ground floor. Africa is about to come online. They are surrounding, major corporations are laying 3,000 miles of internet cable around Africa. They are digging pipelines from America to Africa. They are lighting Africa up. Over there is billions upon billions of dollars being poured into Africa now. Africa, they are opening an NBA league in Africa. Major studios are being built in Africa. This Africa is the country to be in now. Listen to me. Africa is the future. Africa is the future. And you may not hear it now, but they are pouring money into the infrastructure because they want to connect Africa to the rest of the world. Africa is being lit up. and they are laying the pipeline under the sea ground in order to light Africa up. It's happening, and it's happening now.
So are these the actual heads of these various countries that have gotten together as one nation versus white businesses moving to Africa and doing their typical thing?
Or is it indigenous people with their own money, rich Africans making their own movies?
I think it's a little bit of everything, but likely it's major corporations led by European owners or
Right.
whatever that are doing this. But I have to say that it is what it is. If that's what it takes to light Africa up and bring it online, Africans are going to benefit. Now I understand what's happening in Africa, whereas they're allowing Chinese and all the rest of these
Right.
other foreign entities to come in and take over. That's an issue all unto itself that I cannot
Yep.
speak to, but it's a major thing that's happening there. But what I can say that is that they're going to bring Africa online by hook or by crook. It's happening. And at the end of the day, the people that are going to be in power are the ones that's laying the wires under the seafloor now. And Elon Musk is also putting, he's trying to give a global internet, whereas though he's trying to put satellites. I forgot how many satellites. I think it was like 45,000 satellites around the planet he's trying to put together the ultimate internet service. Whereas though he can put 40,000 or 45,000 satellites that's going to surround the globe and give everyone across the planet in every foreign region of the world internet access, which will help bring Africa online as well. There are a lot of things that are happening. And so in regards to film and television, which is one of the most powerful, influential mediums in the world, and everyone gets control of it. So yeah, it's like Africa is the place to be, and people want to control the narrative in Africa as well.
So are people actually creating their own channels on the internet? We sit down and we're looking at the Netflix and whatever, and you subscribe, but are people doing what we're doing right now, where we have the red table conversations with Jada and her family? So are people doing more of that type of thing online?
I think Roku is leading the charge in that regard because they are reaching out to independent producers. I get calls all the time from their salespeople about starting a channel. I think it's IPTV that some of these, and these are digital television channels that pretty much can be started by anyone. And so it's like if you somehow, there are plenty of them, but if you get a Roku channel and you start an OTT service, you can pretty much start your own television or a digital television channel and actually be on, like I can see digital television channels on my television. Like I can just pull them up like almost any regular local television. So those opportunities for independent producers are happening all over. So yeah, but I would say Roku is most certainly like leading the charge in that.
What do you have out that we should be paying attention to so we can go and watch your work? And where can we find it?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the access to the plug. You can see my work at davisionentertainment.com. And we like the Amazon Prime platform because, and I would tell all filmmakers that Amazon Prime is one of the best streaming services out there. Jeff Bezos is putting billions of dollars into original programming. And, that being said, is allowing you to have your show on a platform that some major productions are on. So, and when that attention and attraction comes to Amazon, if your material's there, that it can some of that can funnel down to you. Some people may happen across your material. So we have about, I think, 10 products on Amazon Prime, which I love. So you could just type in like Brazen Wolves or Betrayals, a movie that we've done, or
You see, she's
unplugged.
smiling, right? She's an Amazon queen. She the queen of Amazon.
Yeah, well, she knows. Then she knows. I'm preaching to the choir. She knows, and from the smile you could tell she loves Amazon. So,
I
and I
do.
do too. I
I
do
do,
too.
because I'm not coming out of my house, so they all joke me. But Amazon's my new best friend.
Yeah, absolutely, and
So tell us
that's where
those
you want to be.
right. Tell us those names again for us to be able to look for, that we can go
Yeah,
up on Amazon Prime and find that belong to you.
yeah. Well, I actually have a DA Vision Entertainment. I have my own channel on Amazon Prime, and you can see my material there. I think it's just Amazon Prime /V/Division Entertainment, something like that. But my name is Derek Thomas, and you can go to DAVisionEntertainment.com. And if you go to that website, all like the current films that I have out now, you can just click on those and they'll take you straight to Amazon Prime.
That's wonderful. We didn't do this at the beginning, but what made you start in the film industry in the first place? How did you get there? What was stirring around in your spirit to get you to that point?
I was it's God. Film is in me. I didn't go to film. I was 6 years old, and I was swinging my legs, sitting on the edge of a bed like kids do. I was just a baby, and I saw Robert Guillaume and Benson, and something in me said I could do that, and then I was off to the races.
I love it. You're saying that was God, right? That's wonderful.
Derek, thank you for taking time out on the fly. What do they call that? Cinema Verte. You did some Cinema Verte for us.
I appreciate it.
And by the way, this is Dr. Stacey Eadie, Derek. She'll be coming in now, but thank you. Darius, did you learn something?
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. It was nice
you.
meeting you.
Yes, sir. Darius, you learned something?
Thank you, brother Derek.
Darius, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you now.
Did you learn something?
Yes, sir. I learned a few things.
What'd you learn?
I learned the different websites, the different places you have to go to actually get a hold of people. Like Derek said, I thought everyone knew each other somehow.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
What?
Do you know what an invoice is?
Yes, he does.
Well, we're gonna email.
I know what an invoice, to forward invoices to make people pay for your services.
Yeah, so we're gonna send you an invoice, but we're gonna compliment some Marsha Jews, but it'll be at least for $1,500 for the services you got during this interview. I do comedy too.
He thinks he does comedy.
Anyway, Marsha, we have with us Dr. Stacey Eadie, medical doctor. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning. How are
Good
you?
morning.
How's everyone?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
So you're a pediatrician, Doc?
Yes, I'm a pediatrician. I see children from the age of 0 of birth to 21.
Okay, and your office is on the East Coast?
Yeah, East Coast, Maryland, and Baltimore.
Okay. And what's your claim to fame, Doc?
Well, I've been doing pediatrics for about 20 years now. And what I love to do, just on the side, I just love mentoring. So I love mentoring my patients. So some of my patients, when they come in, we do medicine, but especially in my teens, I like to talk to them about what their future looks like. We do the whole healthcare. We do that visit, make sure we check off all our boxes. But for me, it's really important to know, what their future is looking like. So I also mentor. I mentor some college students as well. I came up with a program at one of the universities, HBCUs, that I attended. And I went in just for a talk. They asked me to go in to talk with some of their students about medicine, and I did. And then I was asked to come back and speak again. And then I wound up having maybe about 20 or more students calling me because they wanted to go into medicine. So I said, between working and also having a family, I think I need to reach out to some of my colleagues and see how I could have them help, and they all want to, but everyone's so busy, but they don't have the platform. So I said, you know what? Let me put this together. So put it together, and it went from just going to medical school to, well, wait a minute, I have a friend that wants to go to dental school, and I have a friend that wants to go to pharmacy school. So I'm like, well, I think I know a pharmacist. I think I know some dentists. So, I just called a couple people, and they were like, oh, great. I've been waiting for an opportunity like this, especially because our numbers are low in the medical sciences. And we all want to see people come in after us. Someday we want to retire. So it was, I really, no no's. So everyone that I asked, they joined. And what we did was we paired mentors and mentees up. And then it was history. So that's where we are now.
What's the name of your system?
Okay. It's called the Underground Pipeline to Medical Sciences.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. And it's amazing.
So let me tell you, Marsha has worked with engineers along in that same vein.
Oh.
Let me get it. The Underground Pipeline
to Medical Sciences.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, Marsha just finished co-hosting the 35th Black Engineer of the Year Awards, designed by some famous Black people like Marsha Jews and Dr. Tyrone Taborn, and they celebrate they celebrate anybody in engineering, including, watch this, Doc, they hang out with generals and admirals.
Well, all right. I would love to hear more about it.
And lady astronauts too. And Marsha, from what I know, because this is Be More News, the news before the news, and we were around before Black USA, she even developed the Women in Technology conference in Atlanta.
It's women of color.
You know what I'm saying.
Okay, but I just need to clarify, because there is a Women in Technology, but that's not us. It's the Women of Color Technology Awards Conference. And we created it in Washington, D.C., and then ultimately took it down to Atlanta, to Texas, and now, excuse me, it's in Detroit.
I would love to hear more. My son wants to be an engineer. Actually, he's a senior, so I just love to hear more about it, and a lot of his friends as well.
Yeah, and they just finished. It was February 11th through the 13th, and it was online, right? But you can go up to BEYA.org, BEYA.org, and there's still information up there. The next conference will be in February, and then the Women of Color is in Detroit. But if you go to that, and then ccgmag.com, CC Charlie George, Maryland Apple George, BEYA.org, and then ccgmag.com, and then that gets you to the Women of Color and all the other things that they have. And they have magazines as well. The U.S. Black Engineer and Information Technology Magazine, U.S. Hispanic Engineer and Information Technology Magazine. So they have that, as well as technology awareness programs. So it's which is part of their foundation. But if you use both of those websites, that will get you all the information. Every major corporation, global, participates, and they actually come to those two conferences specifically to look for people of color.
And they got money, Doc. They got money.
I love it. I just love it. That's how I got where I am now, is people giving and sharing and, investing. And it's good to hear, that there's still those same things, at Lincoln University. That's why I went to Lincoln University, because they had a program with NASA, and they paid my entire tuition. So to give back, when I hear about this lovely program you have, and, know that we have so many kids of color that would
Oh,
love.
yes. And, actually, they even have during the conference, they have booths so people can select a college that they want to go to. A lot of universities participate, a lot of programs, other types of programs that are nonprofit participate. So, maybe what we can do is talk offline. And if there's something where you're looking for mentors, because there's a lot of PhDs, there may not be medical doctors that attend, but there are certainly people who have children who may want to participate. I mean, it's huge. It's STEM, everything about science, technology, engineering, and math in that one space happens, and it's all about Black people and people of color, women of color.
Amazing. I'll definitely love to talk to you offline.
Yeah, we will. We will. Darius, you're getting a lot of information, aren't you?
Yes, I definitely am. I have a few questions for Miss Stacey also.
Yes.
Dr. Stacey.
No.
In 2003, your residency at the Children's Hospital of Michigan.
Yes.
In 2003, did you come in contact with Dr. Natalia Tanner?
Absolutely. That was amazing. For me, what sold me to the residency was seeing so many faces that look like me. I had been, by the time graduate school, I was just going from an HBCU. I was just like, oh gosh, I just want to see some faces. And I was like, I'm not going to Detroit, but when I went, so many attendings. I mean, just for the interview, the students, and the residents, the attendings. Dr. Tanner would take you if you were up on the happened to see her, say in the NICU and she had a baby that she was there for. She would love on you. She would tell you, tell your stories. She's told us stories about her experience being the only Black female, which was so empowering. Just a wealth of knowledge, and to see someone so just personable. She was, it wasn't like, oh gosh, that's Dr. Tanner, I can't say anything. She'd see you and she'd say, well, come here, let me show you something, and she would teach. But yes, I was blessed to be able to learn under her. Yes.
So
that's great. That woman, she set the bar. The bar. The hospital was once even segregated.
Yes.
During the time. It was segregated. And that was just wonderful that you actually got to work with her as a pediatrician.
Yeah. And even being segregated back then, she would tell you of stories of even when it wasn't segregated, when she'd come in and they would think she was the nurse and ask her to do things like, oh, can you change my child's sheets? And she actually did it. Mm-hmm. She changed the sheets. She took the trash out, and the nurses were like, Dr. Tanner, what are you doing? What are you doing? And she did it, came back in and sat down, and they were looking at her like, and she said, okay, well, they were like, well, we're waiting for the doctor. She said, I'm the doctor. Hi, I'm Dr. Tanner. And, just blow your mind, humble, just humble, but yes.
That's a powerful story. And
yes.
That takes a lot of humility and a lot of intestinal fortitude to be able to do that and not throw the bucket at the people.
Because I told him, Doc, take your own, change your own damn shit.
I think a lot of us probably would have taken the same thing.
And that wouldn't have been about no ego for real, but
right. Just
that's powerful. And that's powerful that you got to work with her.
Yes, it was. And several doctors, just as her. My mentor was Dr. Collins, who had been through the system for years, had been through the Detroit medical system, and just so much history with them, stories that they share with you. It was like being with your parent or grandparent, in those rough times, because residency is no joke. And back then it really was no joke, because it was before Bell Commission. So Bell Commission is when residents had to be out by a certain time. I remember spending hours at the hospital. Sometimes we'd be there about 36 hours. So I might go at 5 in the morning and not leave until the next evening at 5 p.m. So it was rough. You learned. The learning curve was steep. But when you had people like that around you, you know, it was just amazing.
So
Doc,
as a little girl, what were you thinking? I mean, to go, you've done the professional, right? And now you're giving back. But something had to be in your spirit as a little girl for you to be here.
Yes. Well, as a little girl, I determined that I wanted to be a pediatrician at the age of about 7 or 8. Unfortunately, I lost my mother at 6 from cancer. So that was like a drive for me. Also, I learned about my birth, which I was born with a birth defect in one of the local hospitals in Baltimore that wasn't equipped. You know, we didn't have ultrasound back then to detect these defects prior. So they didn't know until I came out. And they told my parents I wouldn't live. So I knew about my story. I was saved once I was there, but I also learned later on that Black females are the strongest newborns, and they survive at higher rates than any other race or sex. So that may have been part of it on my side too. So once I learned of my story, you know, and that I was only 1 in 8 babies back then that would survive that, they had told my parents that I was a miracle baby, that, you know, we would see what would happen, and I ate right away after the surgery and everything, but my intestines were outside of my body. So when I heard of those two things, I just was like, how can I help people, you know, first off, kids to stay alive, and then who should lose a mother, you know? So it's like, no, you know, we gotta, you know, I want to help people, you know? And my father just poured into me and my family. So I'm just used to people giving love and sharing, you know? So I would say it started there, just with the support, not knowing anyone really in medicine personally, and just always having the love and supporting your family and friends, saying you can do it, you know. And I also had some friends at a young age. It was 3 of us who said we were going to be doctors at elementary, and we all made it through medical school.
Okay,
I
Doc.
love it.
Doc, you're blowing our mind. Number one, Darius is an aspiring filmmaker, and Darius, I'm gonna put your horror movie to the side because you got to do a movie on these 3 right here. I don't know the name of it. It's gonna be like Hidden Figures, but the pack made in elementary school with
Elementary.
And then also, Doc, I can't help but ask you about how spirituality, faith plays a role in your life.
Faith is everything to me. And like I said, from losing my mother at a young age, just, you know, I grew up in the church. So of course you start there, but then you learn to get your own faith and understanding when you're in those rough times, you know, yeah, your parents' prayers are working for you, but you start saying, Lord, I need to get through this test, you know. God, oh gosh, you know, I'm going through this. How do I, because I went to school in New York, medical school in New York. And it was rough being alone up there. And to add to that story, unfortunately, while I was in medical school, in the roughest time of my medical school, my father passed. So faith was, you know, it's like, listen, you're going to make it or you're not. This was not just my dream. This was me in his dream, you know? So it was like, you know, you don't have a choice. And I was able to see God work in my life. You know, I was able to see the impossible, what seemed to be the impossible, just happen in front of me. Still now, I just see things that happen, and I just go, Lord, you just never cease to amaze me.
What's your mom and dad's name?
My mother's name was Marva, and my father's name you wouldn't even imagine, but he's from the South. His name was Sniffer. But they call it so many different names. He had Sniff, Rock, you know, whatever. He hated his first name. But yes.
So Marva and Rock are smiling down on you. And I gotta share this quick one. I lost my mom when I was 20. I'm 55 now, so I've been 35 years without her. And it was a part of my story where I was at Morehouse and everything got turned upside down. And it took me a while. It took me a while to recover. But not long ago, I had a conversation with a man who's 95 last Wednesday. His name is Mr. Alan Meacham, and he is the last remaining co-founder of James Mosier Baseball. And we were just talking one day. He was a former principal at Dunbar and at Calverton. And Mr. Meacham was raised by his dad because his mom passed when he was 4. And what I immediately learned, number one, I had a mom for 20 years, and I need to be very, very grateful. But I thought I had some struggles at 20, and here he lost his mom when he was 4. But I can tell you, Marva and Rock are smiling on you. I know.
Well, thank you. Well, it's funny, things come full circle, and I'm assuming you mean James Mosier on the west side. My mother was an elementary school teacher at James Mosier Elementary, and she taught special education for the 6th grade, and they loved her.
That's
so
powerful.
Yeah, it's just yeah.
And that's the oldest Black Little League in the country.
Wow, didn't know that. Didn't know. I only went to kindergarten. I did attend, but when she passed, then I went back to my zone school. But yeah.
You have a powerful story. What do you think, Darius?
It's extremely powerful. Like you said, that's a movie by itself. It's a movie by itself.
Well, I'd love to talk to you more about it.
Dr. Stacey, you got so many options in pediatrics. You got emergency medicine, rheumatology, hematology, oncology, pulmonology, gastroenterology. What is your specialty?
So I'm a general pediatrician. So I do minimal of all of that. So when you do general, you're the general hematologist, and then when you can't take care of it, you send them to the pediatric hematologist or gastroenterologist. So we do everything from the head to the toe, from the beginning of birth to the end. We do everything in general peds. So yes. So I own my own practice. So
that's wonderful.
Applied pediatrics. Yes, that was part of my dad's dream as well. These are the things, the nuggets, the knowledge that he gave me as a young child. He was just like, you're going to become that pediatrician, and you're going to, you should have your own practice. What 7-year-old would think that? I don't know. But, he was putting those nuggets in me, and they stayed. Yeah.
So how can people get in touch with you if they have a child and need a pediatrician?
Absolutely. My office can be contacted directly if you're in the Baltimore area at 410-285-5437. We also have a website, which is www.PEDSINAPOD. So that's it sounds like PEDS in a pod. So P is in Paul, E is in Edgar, D is in David, S is in Sam, INAPOD.net.
Okay, .net. Great. That's wonderful. Do you have maybe 3 or 4 things in the time of COVID that parents should be thinking about for their children?
So in the time of COVID, number one, I'm going to always say still, once the vaccine is here or not, for right now, we want to wear a mask. We want to socially distance. We want to avoid large crowds with our children. Wash our hands with soap and water, not just sanitizing, soap and water, cleaning our surfaces down. But in the time of COVID, what I've really spent a lot of time asking my patients about, and not their parents, asking them, is how are they doing? And I think sometimes we don't do that enough with our children. Is just ask, even me with my children, just asking, how was your day? How is this online education going? Because this is new for them. This virtual learning has been a strain. It's been a strain on a lot of children. educationally, mentally,
Mm-hmm.
academically, nutritionally. You know, sometimes we take for granted that the schools supply 3/4 of the nutrition for the day for a lot of kids, at least, you know, maybe even at least half, because they get breakfast and lunch there, you know. And throughout the summer, and with the pandemic and them not going in, even though the government did shift and made sure that, you know, well, the schools made sure that the lunches did get out. But so nutrition, even on the opposite end, what are the kids eating while they're home? I'm seeing a lot of weight gain, you know, at home, because the kids aren't moving around a lot. They're eating a lot of snacks that aren't too healthy for them. Mentally, I'm seeing depression. I'm seeing anxiety. I'm seeing a lot of kids who have underlying learning disabilities that are struggling, that, you know, the gap is kind of increasing now, you know, even for our kids, especially. We already, you know, our gap was already there with other kids when it came to performance sometimes. And now this gap, I worry about the gap for them educationally, which also goes on mentally, because then they take that on to themselves and they become depressed and anxious. And their self-esteem lowers. Also with the obesity, self-esteem lowers. I'm also concerned about them, you know, catching it as well, because we do have some kids that have been sick, and there is something called the multi-system inflammatory syndrome for children, who they did some research on in New York and found that, you know, a lot of the organs in kids were being affected, having inflammatory reactions. And also, there was some deaths. And guess what? Again, our Black and Hispanic kids were affected way more than any other children. Also, kids with asthma, obesity, those were the most common, you know, predisposing conditions for them.
How do we level that playing field when you sit down and you start talking about people of color whose children are far more impacted than Caucasian children? What is it that we should be doing as a community, as a nation, to change that and do that shift?
So I think first, what we have to do is, you know, try and see, you mean like personally for each kid, or you mean just globally for all of our kids?
What do we do for children of color in the United States of America? In the United States of America, we have children who are at risk, underserved, who are all automatically put into a position where they're not going to get the food, get the proper diet, get the proper experience. There's a challenge for them coming out the gate. How do we reconcile that?
I think we need policies. I think we need to start at the elementary school level. Also, as parents, and I try and encourage parents to be active in their parent-teacher associations. Be active. Go, and we have to advocate for our kids as well. We have to go and stand in the gap when our children are in school and they're struggling with things. I try and also share with the parents that come into my office, letting them know that if you think your child is struggling, no, you have the right to ask for your child to be evaluated to make sure there's not a learning disability. Sometimes I will refer them as well to a developmental pediatric specialist if you know, I feel that they need to even go an extra step, because they're resources. And sometimes even within the plans that the schools may have, you might need someone else saying, no, that's a good plan, but they need a little bit more of this. They might need a device that might help them. For the food portion of it, yes, you know, we want to make sure we have nutritional lunches for them when they're there, but also what can we do within the communities to get more resources for those single moms or for the grandmoms. I have a lot of grandmoms that are raising their grandchildren, for different reasons, whether it's death of a mother or a parent, or if it's because of maybe substance abuse, or maybe it, for whatever reason the grandparents are, and it's a struggle on them. But having the resources for them to be able to, even if they're in foster care, they don't get money for clothing, but these grandparents don't work, like they don't work anymore, they're retired. So
Right.
having more resources and programs.
But how would that come through? We have a new mayor in the city, right?
Mhm.
And he has all new staff. What would you recommend to the mayor of Baltimore coming in with what we should be doing for the children of Baltimore?
I would recommend that within the city, finding out what the problems are, what are the resources that the families are not having, that they do need, and then try and figure out from there where to start. Because I think it's a little different for each family, but overall, generally, educationally, are the resources there at the schools that the teachers need? If not, then hey, how do we make sure that those allocations for the schools are going into the right places, that are going to help the children do better? Educationally, I don't know. I'm a real advocate of education, because I feel that changes the trajectory for each child later on. We're not just looking at while they're in kindergarten through 12th grade. We're talking about, this cycle that is just repetitive. And if we can't get them on a level of doing well academically, then this affects their chances of jobs later on, needing that diploma to graduate. How do we get the kids to graduating and moving on to either trades or jobs, and also working on the fact that people in the community, once the kids are graduating or if they're dropping out, they don't have resources to work.
Right.
They don't have recreation. They don't have, all these outlets. When I look in the county, there's so many sports, recreational parks and turf fields, and everything for kids to get out and be able to still play sports at a reasonable cost, not at a club cost, but at a reasonable recreational cost. And we don't have those programs no more. I was able to do dance in the city when I was younger over at Howard Park. It was free. I rode my bike home after dance. That was something for me to be able to do. I don't see that anymore. And I started to see that fall off somewhere in the 80s or something. I just was like, where are the recreation centers going for those kids that need something to do? Get them off of the streets so that they don't have to, get involved in things that they shouldn't, and feel good about themselves.
Doc, you ever thought about running for mayor?
No, but I'm writing a book. I'm just gonna put it in a book. I'm gonna put it in a book. It's called Maternal Instinct, and it's just about the fears of raising males of color. And I have a special place there because I just somewhere there I went to all girls high school, and something got lost, because between middle school and getting to high school, I saw a decline, and I went to school with some really educated brothers, and I just saw the numbers decrease, and that traumatized me. So, there was a big trauma for me. I know there's so many more of our brothers that should be where I am right now, and something happened, but I'm going to figure that out. I want to someday. That's my charge. That's my torch.
One of the things that hasn't come up in this conversation is mass incarceration and the impact of the criminal justice system. America has 5% of the world's population, but we also have 25% of the world's inmates. 34% at my last check were Black males, and Black women are the fastest growing demographic in a city where murder is rampant.
And where does this start? It
at
starts
home.
in elementary school, and it starts
Yeah.
in elementary school with the discipline and the way that they discipline our boys versus how they discipline
Correct.
other children. That's where it starts. And, it's just, it starts there, and it spirals out of control. And
Can
these
you
boys are,
articulate?
you said who?
Can you articulate? I mean, what happens in there?
So, in elementary school, take a first grader. He's in class. Okay, he's acting out for whatever reason. He gets sent to the principal's office. Okay, he comes back. The teacher's like, okay, I'm sick of you, go back. And then they say, you know what? You're going to have to do in-school detention or out-of-school detention. Whatever. What is that doing? That's not helping him educationally. You're
Right.
taking him out of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not able to get the instruction. So it's really probably less of a punishment. It might be positive for him. But anytime my little black boy was even thought to some kind of way, I said, oh, no, this is what I'll do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send you some more work. If you don't have enough work for him to do, I'm going to send you a book for him to do, because his punishment is going to be, guess what? He finished your work too soon, and now he thinks he can play around. No, he's going to take this work and he can do. And then he's like, oh, Mom, I don't want your work. Like, I'm okay. That's his response. But even for the teachers, then it pushed it back to them. Like, listen, that's not the way we're going to deal with this. We're going to figure out what the problem is.
Doc, I know we only have you for another 10 minutes, but I got to hit you. I am concerned that when non-Black teachers get a hold of our young Black boys in the classroom and they do not know how to deal with this high level of energy, the very first thing they will tell the parent is to give that child Ritalin.
Mm.
It could be the Ritalin or the discipline, because they don't know how to. And that's been my experience. That will be in the book as well. But my experience as well. Yes, I have a high energy boy. He's a little calmer now. But in school, but he did well. That was his good part about it. But yeah, he's going to talk. He was going to talk, and I didn't get the question of ADHD because his grades were fine, but they are going to challenge that if that is what it is. Everything's not ADHD.
Right.
Some things, it could be boredom. It could be he's not challenging. It could be a learning disability. It could be that, he's not connecting with what the teacher is saying. But I agree with what you're saying, because I put that very thing in my book that I'm writing, that I do see that with especially the younger teachers that are not African American, that they don't know. And not just younger sometimes, but I know when my son did get a good teacher, meaning not good, but seasoned, and knew how to just deal with kids, and deal with boys and deal with our boys and not treat them differently. I could see it. He felt it,
Mm-hmm.
And it is a difference.
Right.
But that's where the parents come in, is, you need to go to your pediatrician, if some kind of way you don't have that trust either with your pediatrician, you need to find a different pediatrician, to find out exactly how can we get to the bottom of this. Is this a behavior issue? Is this a learning problem? Is this boredom? The kid is just brilliant and they just are bored. You need to bump them up. Back in the day, we didn't do all this. My teacher would have 3 different sections of kids in one class, and she had a curriculum for every group of students. And you better not talk. I mean, you'd have 5 of us over here. We might be doing a higher level math, somebody else doing this math. And they could manipulate and work that way. They knew how to shift and move. And this new, for me, this new Common Core and everything out, this is a different learning. But I just feel that, back in the day, the teachers, they adjusted. They knew how, and maybe too, because in elementary, my teachers weren't. They looked like me. They did.
I'd submit to you that our teachers in our era, your era, Marsha's era, loved us. And that's the missing ingredient. When Dr. Andres Alonso became CEO of the schools, he got rid of 75% of the principals. And those were the older Black women that brought me, you, and Marsha through school, who loved us, who corrected us with love, who educated us with love, who gave us the utmost standards. You will persevere Black excellence, whatever you do. You will be excellent.
Who was the mayor of that at that time when they brought him in from New York?
Cardinal Malley.
And he was not respected in New York. I was up at Columbia University, and they talked about him when he was chancellor over the city of New York. They talked about him terribly.
Well,
he was not capable.
Santa Lisa is a prototype. She was endorsed by Alonzo, and I'm not pointing fingers at her, but I have a problem with people making $350,000 and giving me a lot of excuses. We have a poor performing school system and we're producing an inferior product. What major company wants to move to a city where everybody's shooting everybody? And a city that's depressed. Environmental terrorism, we got vacant houses. Or if you live in East Baltimore and all you see is the penitentiary, the city jail, diagnostic, what is a young Black man to say?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
I've got to go, y'all. Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you for joining us. You want to put your contact information one more time?
Oh, okay. Was that for me?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I know your time is limited. Let me just stop. Darius, this is Darius's first day on the job.
Oh, okay. Congratulations.
Darius, did you have one more question for the doc?
Yeah, I had one more question. Besides, because speaking on education, because there's a lot of memos that certain parents didn't get, like in 2019, April 12th, the Rock and Play, Fisher Price literally whispered a recall on the Rock and Play, and that killed approximately about 30 infants. But some people actually still have them in the houses in the city because they didn't get the memo. Some parents are actually buying their children Beats by Dre headphones, Sony headphones, not understanding that over 85 decibels is damaging, could cause permanent hearing loss to a child. There's education like that some of the parents are missing, what are putting the kids in harm. Do you have any educational advice or educational tips to the parents that can help keep our children safe before they get to you?
Yes. So very good question. And this is what I want everyone to understand. There are only about 2 or 3 products for children that actually have to go through any type of clearance through, the FDA or wherever. So you have cribs and you have car seats, and pretty much the rest is free fall. Most other countries don't sell half the things we sell here because they're not approved. These are the only 2 things that are regulated. So, anything else is free fall. Walkers, number 1 cause of injuries in children. And you would think that here in the United States, that would be something we would stop the sales. No, because we're making money. And as long as people can make money and the government doesn't make any type of regulations against it, they're going to keep making money. So in other countries, you're not going to find these products like you're talking about, like the walkers, like the bouncy, the little, what were they called? The jumping something, the kids that were giving them hip fractures, because the babies would jump, inside of them. The walkers, we get so many injuries in a year with walkers, babies going down steps, babies pulling. You would be amazed on the strength of an infant. They can pull TVs down on themselves. We get skull fractures. We get everything, down to death, because if a child goes down some steps, with a walker, those are the kind of things, that might happen. We're always seeing kids with, what do you call the trampolines? So many injuries per year. And of course, even with our swimming pools, we have to make sure that we have safety around that. Now, those you are supposed to, have gates and things, but we have so many drowning, and our kids drown at a rate higher than anyone else because, they're not used to being in the waters. They didn't learn to swim, or whatever. So this is very true. They will sell anything. So my recommendations to parents is do your research. Anything that you're buying and you're bringing into your house, you're the custodian, because no one else is regulating it. The government is not going to regulate it because it's lots of money behind all of this. So cribs, you're not going to get a crib or car seat usually that's going to have an issue because those are regulated. But anything else is fair game.
You've opened our eyes. We have to bring you back, Doc.
Well, I would love to.
How can people get in touch with you one more time?
Yes.
Pedsinapod.net.
.net, www.pedsinapod.net. And I'm at Peds in a Pod. It's called Peds, but Peds in a Pod, Pediatrics LLC, 410-285-5437.
Good deal. Thank you so much for joining us today, Doc.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
All right. So Darius, has been a heck of a show for you, bud. This first time in. What you think, man?
So far, so good.
You did well. You did an excellent job, young man. Welcome to the team.
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you.
Good deal. We're going to sign off for now, and we'll be back this evening at 6 p.m. right here for the Black Wall Street Town Hall meeting, how to better support Black business. And we will have some Black Wall Street honorees on this show with us at 6 p.m. East Coast time. So for Darius, Marcia, and Kavette, who will be back Monday, this is Donnie Glover, and thank you for watching BlackUSA.News. Up to date, down tomorrow. Do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it, regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning.